I admire Ambassador Surendra Kumar, who's really passionate about making things happen, making our country a great place, and making things coming out of here truly landmarks. Cinema is, each person has his own journey through cinema, and each area has its own cinema, each region has its own cinema, and therefore I think when you try to understand cinema, you have to understand that it's coming from some kind of a grassroots reality. It's coming from some kind of a passionate connect you have with the soil. And this whole passionate connect has to really lift the concept and the idea into making this grassroots passionate connect into a global statement. Unless you can make this deep passionate grassroots connect into a great global statement, somewhere you're losing the essence of the beauty of this medium. Because this medium is a very pure medium, because in 2 hours people are sitting totally at your disposal. In fact, I'd like to quote here Griffith, D.W. Griffith, who's the father of American cinema, and he said in 1924, he said in 100 years from now, it is the language of the moving images that can bring about true brotherhood of man and end all armed conflicts from the face of this earth. So there must be something he must have thought. So he had a great global vision for this medium. So unless you are passionately involved with, you have to look at cinema in 3-4 ways. One is a global vision and what it can do for humanity. Second thing, you have to look at it either as a purely commercial product, and thirdly, as your own individualistic, artistic expression. So these are 3 different genres of cinema, and each person has his own blend or mix of this cinema and tries to create his own journey through this passage of exploration. I mean, my own journey has been Awadh. I have not moved out of Awadh because I don't understand the soil anywhere else. I understand the issue of migration from my own area. I understand the issue of sugarcane, plight of sugarcane growers. I understand the issue of post-independence politics. I understand the issue of the decadence of our culture. I understand the issue of, these are issues which are larger than life for me. The biggest issue that to me is so important is the crumbling of the composite culture. Today, composite culture of this country and this nation, and particularly where I come from, is very, very important. If we can hold the fabric of this composite culture, then we are achieving a very big thing. Another way of looking at cinema, I mean, all of you, there are a lot of diplomats here, is that how do you want the world to look at you? I mean, you shouldn't be embarrassed about looking poor, but you should be embarrassed about looking dishonest. There's nothing wrong with looking poor. When we say Swachh Bharat, that means we are imagining the state of toilets in this country. So unless you imagine those state of toilets, you're not motivated to do anything. So we should not be embarrassed that Mr. Ray exposed poverty. That was the truth. And he was not exposing poverty, he was exposing a certain kind of vulnerability, he was exposing a certain kind of a sensitivity. He was trying to connect literature with art, imagery with poetry, poetry with music, and he had this whole thing going on in his head, and he was not ever crying about the whole plight of the commercial plight of the film world. That is a different story. How you address the producer and how you address the distributor is a different story altogether. But what is really important is to have that passion, and the other thing is to have that national vision. So I think what we expect from the country is a national vision for cinema. Like America has a national vision. I mean, you may say Hollywood is this, that and the other, but they have a very big policy, you know what I mean? They have covered up a lot of their sins through the cinema. how they've behaved with the Red Indians. They've covered it up through the whole cowboy culture. They've got all kinds of things they've done with their cinema. So we must also have a vision of how to present our policy. And our policy is not of being apologetic. Our policy is of a philosophy. Is the philosophy of humanity. Is the philosophy of compassion. It's the philosophy of poetry. It's got the philosophy of history. It's got so many other things. It's got the biggest thing is when you're writing history, there are two ways of writing history. One is you're writing human history, or you're writing the conqueror's history. We've had enough of conqueror's history. Now we have to write that whole history through a human point of view. You cannot reinvent history in any other way except through the human heart. And today it is very important to see history from that perspective, And see, when you look at our own, let's say, what the Americans have done for the Holocaust, they must have made thousands and thousands of films with the same emotion, but each emotion is differently dealt, you know what I mean? It's got different nuances, it's got different shades, it's got different actors, it's got different texture and patina. And we have had a very, very interesting, powerful Holocaust, which is 1857, which led to the partition of the country. Now that 100 years, that was a period of history which had ramifications for 100 years. It paid off in 1947 in the division of the country. And this whole thing has gone unnoticed. When you talk about shouldn't have made Umrao Jan, I should have made Rani of Jhansi. It's the pathos of Umrao Jan that is more important. You know what I mean? It's the breaking of that culture. Basically when I make a film, I'm drawn to human helplessness. And unless you're drawn to human helplessness, your film is not deeply rooted. It doesn't have the passion. It doesn't have the connect. So it's really, for me, film is like one big sweep of thought process. I can't treat film in parts and portions. I have to treat film as a big holistic mission. You know what I mean? And then you cannot also be apologetic. Itne din maine kuch nahi kiya, itne din maine socha nahi. I don't have to prove anything. I'm not counting my time in terms of what I've done. I'm counting my times in terms of how deeply relevant I can be to my soil, So I think this is very important. So when you talk about should cinema have a social responsibility? Of course we have to have a social responsibility. The biggest social responsibility is to upgrade the art. And to upgrade the art, you have to become global. You can't upgrade the art on the Indian market, because the Indian market is already demented. We have to raise the level of the Indian market, and the only way you can do it is not just festivals, is to go into mainstream. You have allowed Warner Brothers, Fox to come and invade your market, but you should tell them we have to invade your market also. We have, number one, we have this NRI population, which I don't think we should take very seriously. What is very important, we should take the world mind, you know what I mean? Unless we address the world mind with our issues, it's not going to work, So we need to take cinema, take the bull by the horns, and look at it politically, look at it aesthetically, look at it in a human way, and look at it from a country's national standpoint. We can go on talking about this and what I'm doing and what I'm not doing, but I think all of you have spoken so well, and you have come with so much experience in this field that it really is a very enriching experience for, I think, this audience. And if there are any questions, I think the panelists would be happy to. Pulnia.